Welcome back to Quick Review Thursday. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got my co-host.
Paul Presenza, otherwise known as the Mew Cow. Moo, 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 moo.
All right, and we're here to talk about Sinners
Yay.
for Quick Review Thursday. And we picked this because both of us had seen it. I think you saw it with Jolene, if I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it by myself. And I had heard nothing but praise about this movie. I never heard a person say they did not like it. you
Right?
know. Uh, so when you get that kind of thing, it always makes me a little nervous still. Like really, just because everybody else likes it doesn't mean I'm gonna like it. And I will say, I had a fun time. I enjoyed it. It took the vampire mythos and it did a few really fun things with it. Um, I just read somewhere that they are planning to um what is it? They're planning to basically let it just be its movie and not do a sequel, which I think is the best. I really hope that they really don't have any plans for a sequel for
Yeah, I
this
agree.
movie. Because as much as I love sequels, you know me, I love connecting universes and I love all that stuff. It just doesn't feel like it should be one. And I feel like if you did it, you might ruin the illusion of the first one, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. The what actually made the first one enjoyable. So, you know us. We sometimes talk about what a sequel would, what fun a sequel would be on certain movies, but not for this one. Um,
So, yeah, and I wanted to point out that, excuse me, it was Ryan Coogler who was the
mhm,
writer and director and producer of this film. And if you guys recall, he's the director of Creed and he did the two Black Panther films.
mhm.
I hadn't seen those, but I had seen the first Black Panther film. I hadn't seen anything else, but I was impressed. And what I liked about it is a little bit different than what you did because I found the vampire stuff to be a little annoying. But I liked all the other stuff. I loved the verisimilitude and the background that they set the film in. In the 1940s, the Deep South and Mississippi. And I mean, frankly, if there had been no vampires at all, I was completely drawn into that world. A world that I would never have known anything about other than what you read in history books. And, those two characters, those two twins that are being both played at the same time by Michael B. Jordan did such a great job. And he was able to make them both very different. And that just goes to show you, the level of talent that he has, because that is not easy to do.
Mhm.
He made them distinct and different, and I was really into it. Like I said, other than I'm not real big on the dancing, singing vampires, and there were a couple of plot holes I found a little bit annoying, but overall, I would give this, if we were going to rank this, like 1 to 10, I'd give this an 8.5. It's a pretty damn good film.
I'd probably give it a 9. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I did enjoy I was watching it, I was watching it, listening to them do the songs and stuff. I'm like, oh God, I bet Paul hated that part
Yeah.
because I know you don't like songs and you don't like singing all the way
like
through.
like
You have to like
one would have been okay, but it was too much.
yeah. And well, I mean, it took place at was it a joint
A juke joint, and
joke
and
joint?
I get it. The idea is that you know the one kid, the guitar player, has got something so special to him that he's able to call out to the ancestors on the other side, and the vampire, for whatever reasons, decided that he misses those people, so that's why he's attracted to that guy in that place in the first place. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bothered. So I get that. It's just, yeah, it was layered on a little too much. That part of it was, but everything else, the details and the costuming and the sets, everything of that was just. I mean, I was like right there in a dirty, muddy road in the middle of some bumfuck town in the southern Mississippi during Jim Crow South, and it was just amazing. It was so well done.
Yeah, I enjoyed also like when I think it was Smoke. Yeah, it was Smoke that went into town to get the food and stuff and to figure all that out. And he sees that little girl, and that little girl's, he says who he is, and she's like terrified of him because of his reputation. And he's like, no, 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 I'm here to give you a job, all right? Just watch my truck, make sure nobody takes it, takes anything off of it and stuff, and I'll give you money. And then like she has to like barter with him or whatever. She has to negotiate with him, and he's teaching her these things,
Hmm.
and I thought that was so cute. And like you said, I probably would have liked the movie even if it weren't a vampire movie. I did love the ending. The ending to it was so cool with the
You mean the extra part? Yeah.
no, 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 no. I'm not the ending, like the main, the post credit sequence or anything. But I'm talking about the scenes where they were like they got like exploded, and all of them got like killed from the
Oh,
sunlight
see,
and
I
everything.
like the extended scene
Oh,
part at
I
the
did
end.
too. I mean, that just wasn't what I was talking about. I love the extended scene because the extended stuff were uh once again, the that set up. That's why people thought that there might be a sequel, because you spoiler alert. I guess we've already been spoiling it a lot already, but like spoiler alert, you find out that Stack and Haley Steinfeld's character, who was wonderful in this movie.
Fantastic, absolutely
I
fantastic.
always love her. But
People
see,
remember she was from True Grit. She was the little kid in True Grit. Blew me away then, and I've been a big fan ever since.
yeah, you just don't watch any of the Marvel stuff or whatever they
No.
do and everything. Because she's Kate Bishop in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anyway, which is funny because, like, yeah, it had Ryan Coogler directing it, which he was the Black Panther guy. Michael B. Jordan was in the original Black Panther movie as the villain, and she was in Marvel. So there were Marvel connections, in this movie, which I thought was pretty cool. That he just was like, and he was probably just like Haley Steinfeld's a great actress, so let me put her in a
And
role.
it was a lot grittier than your normal Marvel movie, from what I can remember. Anyway, there
Oh
was
yeah.
there was no clean spot anywhere in this film. Like reality in that era and that place.
And it was rated R, which is not what Marvel movies
Yes,
generally are. That's not a movie for kids,
this is
you
for
know.
adults.
Yeah, and that's another thing you liked. This reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn meets Django Unchained, pretty much, And so, the whole From Dusk Till Dawn angle is, I always kind of make this reference, but like one of my eighth grade teachers once explained to me that he went to see a movie from Dusk Till Dawn. He was not aware of what the movie was about. He didn't know it had anything to do with vampires, right? And everything like that. So he watches the first half of the movie and he's like, "Oh, this is a gangster movie." And then it takes a turn, and he was one of those guys that got caught off guard and was like, And I didn't get caught off guard because the previews already showed that this was a
Hmm.
vampire movie. So I was waiting for that thing, but if nobody had told me that would have been a nice surprise, and stuff. That the vampires just show up and they start and but I love the idea, like they can't come in unless they're invited, and I just thought that was funny. There's some funny bits with that, like
Which was another thing. He could have gotten around that because he had very useful information that those guys would have needed. That if he had played his cards right, would have gotten him in. But
yeah, but then they would have still been like, "You're a vampire, we're not letting you in. You can tell us
be,
outside,"
because the
like,
thing is that he's going to get the one brother anyway. So, but
yeah.
he ends up he has to. But I get it because he also has to get Haley Seinfeld's character too. So, and there's no reason, no way to do that without getting her outside and getting her separated.
I did love that scene, that the part where she was talking to the vampires. She has no clue who they are necessarily, what they are, and then as she's leaving, you see him jump up in the air, like fly in the air.
Yeah, that was
And
cool.
I thought it was neat, and especially neat that they didn't actually just show more of that and everything, because that's where a studio guy would be like, that's really cool, but can we see him, fly and pick her up and do, right? And I'm
Right.
like, we don't need that. We just need that like really cool shot of him flying to know like, oh shit, like he's gonna get her, or
And there was no message. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying there wasn't, there was, but it wasn't shoved down your throat and made obvious. This was done in a way that was very, very
Well,
skillful by people who know how to write and know how to direct.
I mean, and yes, maybe there's some racism stuff like,
Definitely.
some messages about that, but it wasn't like you said, it wasn't in your face. I mean, there's the Ku Klux Klan as the villain, as part of the villains. The vampires are villains. There's no real. It's not like, oh, they're just a bunch of
And
white people.
it's
So
interesting because you got the impression the vampires did not like the Klan either. I was kind of hoping for a minute there that the vampires would have helped those guys kill the Klan. That would have been fun.
and that would have been fun, but I liked it better that he took out all the Klans people himself. I thought that was great and a lot of fun, and because Smoke was became probably one of my favorite characters in it, and but then so was Stack. I like them both.
Smoke and Stack. That's
I
really
know
cool. It's clever.
Smokestack twins, and and they were so much fun. Like they were pretty funny, and I could see a lot of like this was something that somebody loved and nurtured, and like it wasn't based on anything, any original IP. It wasn't, and the fact that it got made is only because Ryan Coogler is Ryan Coogler,
Right, right.
right? Like, if somebody sent this script out to Hollywood, like that was just a regular person, said, I've got this script, here you go. Hollywood would not touch it with a 10-foot pole, because it's just not, they're nobody. Like what, well, what interest would they have for it? But let me see what the let me see what the
I also like the way that they handle the vampires with regards to them being pretty much neutral creatures. They're not necessarily evil. They sort of do what they do. It's not because they have to survive. Clearly at the little postscript part there where they go back and they find the guitar guy, they could have just as well killed him too, but they don't. They let him live, and they're happy to let him live, and they visit him later on towards the end of his life, and then they actually offer him the option to sort of join them because he's a much older person now, and he would have the opportunity to keep on playing and keep on living in
living.
a way. But the guy knows what's going on, and he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm okay." But
Yeah,
it was
you'd
it
be
was
okay with
nice.
dying, or whatever if you wanted to. It was a $90 million budget, which is fairly cheap in the scope of like Hollywood blockbuster type movies or whatever, or anything like that. But it made 350 million. So
Yeah,
like, if Hollywood would look at that and go, okay, a movie nobody's heard of, they might have just heard of the director and the actors or whatever, but that's it. They, people
it
will
had
go see
good
it.
timing. It hit at a time when people really needed an adult film that was an R-rated film that had a lot of action and a lot of stuff. It's a sin because I thought Mad Max Furiosa would have done that. It's just it came out at a bad time last year, and it to me that movie is just as good if not better, and it was just bad timing, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. So people are much wanting this right now, and craving for this kind of stuff. So Hollywood, get on it, make more R-rated original films,
Right, right.
whatever. I mean, sure, you can't have Ryan Coogler directing them all, but
I
you'll
can't wait to
need.
see his next one though.
What is his next one? Do you know?
I'm not sure. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is that this was a very interesting contrast, of course, to the Nosferatu film that came out earlier. Very, very, very different approach, very, very different group of people who made it. again, equally good, but I like the fact that this movie is completely different from that and stands on its own, creates its own mythos, has its own characters and its own story, and immerses you in a completely different world. And it's just wonderful. And I love the fact that there are these two really, really excellent vampire films that came out within a year of each other. It's just, a lucky time for us who like, intellectual and more creative horror films that are out there.
Well, so his one of his next projects that's in development is called Wrong Answer. It's a math teacher in Atlanta is scandalized when he looks to get funding for his school by altering his students' test scores. So I guess it's a sort of seems like that might have been something that happened, or whatever. And
Sounds like something from The Wire.
yeah. And then there's a TV series he's working on called Scenes for Minors, based on experiences of Breton, Kugler, and Hodge during various stages of their life. So, and then he's also doing something I'm confused as to whether you're going to be happy about this or not. But there's an untitled X-Files reboot.
Really?
Yeah, so he might be bringing it back, which is that going to be good? Is that going to be bad? You
Well, it
know?
depends. You cannot bring that back and recast Mueller and Scully. You have to get new characters and a new updated world.
It's
That would
it
work.
If it were like a African American reboot, that could be interesting,
Sure.
and stuff, especially if they
They
just get rid
kind
of
of
it.
did that with HBO. God, I can't think of the damn name of the movie, of the show that was on. It ran only for a couple seasons, and I saw the first few, and they were really good. But I don't have HBO, so I couldn't get it. I wish I remembered it, but it was set in the 30s and 40s, and
Yeah, I
it
don't.
had some mystery kind of stuff going on. I forget the title of it, but that was really good. If it's sort of along that lines, that would be cool.
Yeah, I don't know that one, but yeah, I have no idea. I know Supernatural was produced by the people who did X-Files, but it wasn't,
Mhm.
that's not X-Files. There's not really aliens involved or whatever. So I would be interested to see what they do with that. But I mean, him doing original stuff and then doing stuff that has original IP is good. You know,
I
that's
mean, and then we've seen that it can be, done well. Again, I'm thinking HBO when they did True Detective. The last season of True Detective is, or no, the one before the last one has had Jodie Foster. The one before that, where it was more of an African American bent. I forget the name of the guy who was the lead for that. He did a great job, and they did a really good job with that one. It's the unfortunate thing is that all the True Detectives suffer because they none of them are as good as the first one, but
right.
all the ones that followed are still really good shows,
Yeah.
and that one was a really really good show too. And I think people should give that one a chance if they get the option to. You know.
All right. Well, I mean, so yeah, so Ryan's busy, Michael B. Jordan's busy, all of them they're all doing their thing. So I'm hoping, people go out and see Sinners. I think it's
And
still in the
it's
theaters.
great that it's hit so much in the mainstream now, because I think there are some people, not because they're racist or anything like that, but I think there are some people that think that movies that are directly made for, by, and about African American people would somehow not appeal to those who are not, and that is not the case at all. It just goes
Well,
to show
especially
you.
not in this one, no.
Well, not definitely not in this one, but it just goes to show you that if you are creating, a great movie with a great script with a really good director, and you have all those things, none of that stuff matters. That you will draw in an audience regardless, and that's the way it should be.
I kind of felt that way about Jordan Peele with Get Out. I mean,
Hmm.
great movie, and I don't
Yeah,
know if you saw it or not,
yeah,
but
it did. It was good.
it was great. It was it's funny because just like True Detective, that was my favorite one, and then after that, all the other ones he did after that, I was like, just like nope. And then there was or whatever, Us,
I didn't
I
see
was
the
just like,
others.
yeah, they weren't nearly as good as Get Out, and And I think it's because once that movie or show or whatever is out there, it's harder to make something just as good, if not better.
Yeah, once you make a movie like that, now you're under pressure not only to produce, but to produce at the same level. And not everybody can do that.
And that's the sad thing is because you don't want to produce something mediocre that people aren't gonna like, but then when you do something really, really good, now you have this, thing
Well,
that you gotta
and
the next one.
that's a big difference between now and back in the day. You know, Stanley Kubrick would not do a movie unless he was absolutely positively ready. Even if it took 3 or 4 years, he just wasn't going to do it. Martin
Right.
Scorsese was not going to do a movie until he has everything that he wants and it's absolutely perfect. These days, young directors who make it good or make it big, they're under pressure to do the next one and to just keep pumping them out there. And you can't just keep pumping them out there unless you're some kind of extremely good talent. You know, you
Mhm.
need to be able to take your time, you know? So I kind of feel bad for some of the younger filmmakers now because it feels like a lot of them are getting pushed to do stuff that isn't quite ready,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
well, especially like with like the Marvel stuff, they're that's why Blade hasn't been made. I forgot the guy's name, something Ali.
Oh,
He,
Hirsch, yeah,
yeah,
Mahershala
Mahershala
Ali.
Ali.
He's the
Yeah.
guy that was in that True Detective. That's who I meant.
Yeah, and he's great. And he's gonna be the new Blade, and he is
Nice.
fighting uh Disney and Marvel and saying this can't I'm not doing this unless it's perfect. And so this the the first problem is they brought in a actress who or not actress writer who wrote for TV and wonderful, but she's never written a film before, or whatever, at least not that one that's got made.
Because
And
she was probably cheaper.
right. And so they brought her in to do it, and then it had no fighting in it, you know, and like
How are you
barely
going to
any
have a
fighting.
talkie blade movie where they don't
Yeah,
fight?
yeah,
Come
that's what
on.
she did, a Talkie Blade
Ah,
movie that was only 90 pages long. Like, no, like I understand like people say, oh, shouldn't be too long, but 90 pages script
it
is
it
short.
sounds like this person was not familiar with the source material.
Oh, probably not. She wasn't good for it. And then she got brought in and then her name is still on IMDb, I believe. Kind of pisses me off because I'm like, get her off there.
And that's a shame because obviously, it's not her fault. I'm sure she wanted any kind of a chance that she was given, and she shouldn't have been given this film. She should have been given another film.
Or
You know what I
TV
mean?
show.
Or a
Create a
TV
TV
show.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear, like I can write both TV and film because, I'm a huge fan of both, things, but it's one of those things where I watch the television, stuff that people make, and then I watch the films. Completely different. They're different format. They're
Sure.
different structure. They're different all around. And you can't just tell people to write one, write the other, unless they're familiar and really good at doing both. And
Right.
I truly believe that there are
And
some, you know,
the other thing too is, of course, it used to be a lot more, the fight of the artist versus the bean counters. Back in the day, the artist won a lot more than the bean counters
mhm,
did. I'm not saying they won all the time, because you look at Orson Welles for an example, but they won a fair share of them, and most of the time they ended up making great films.
mhm.
Now it's a lot more the bean counters, and you're getting a lot more stuff that's, I have to say, it's fairly mediocre. It might make a lot of money, but that's because there's not much else out there, and there's just not a whole lot of elevated film out there. So that's why I like to see a film like this. At least it's a massive step in the right direction.
Um, I have this like weird theory that like films in the theater are gonna go away. Like they're just,
I don't think so.
I think so because my take on it is it's getting way too expensive for people to go see movies, and not enough people want to when there's too much stuff at home. So I think that like there's going to have
Yeah.
to be two different things
I
that
I
happen.
don't think so. I think it's not going to be what it used to be, but there is a whole different, completely different experience when you go to see a movie like, say, Mad Max Furiosa or Longlegs in the theater on the big screen. It's a completely different experience than when you see it in a small thing in your house. It's just not the same.
All right, well, I'm just saying, as much as you want it to stay the whatever, it's not looking good. There's a lot of theaters shutting down too. Like it's just they can't survive, on it and stuff. The economy right now is just so bad.
Yeah,
And
well, unfortunately, the economy is affecting pretty much every industry right now.
right.
So,
And so the theaters might be going a lot more theaters might be going
but
away.
we've had recessions and depressions in the past, and movies have always, made it because they're an escape from that sort of thing.
Right.
It's just the difference is that back then it was proportional to the audience. People could afford it even when they didn't have any money. You could spend a little bit of money and go. And nowadays, shit, you can't even get popcorn if you're not working these days. Popcorn's like $12 a box.
That's what I'm saying. Like everything's so expensive at the theaters that nobody wants to go, Like I mean, so I don't know. I have a bad theory about it, but if
Somewhere along the line, Hollywood's going to have to check themselves and say, there's no reason we have to spend $300 million for every goddamn freaking movie. You can make an excellent film for, obviously, for a third of that or less. You can make a great film for $30 million, for Christ's sake. You don't need to spend all of that stuff and just throw in a whole bunch of freaking flashy special effects like a bunch of ketchup. That's not what you need. And a movie like this doesn't have anything like that. And it did really, really well.
still 90 million though. That's a lot more
90
than
million's
30
not so
million.
bad.
All right, so you're saying 100 million or less.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that, especially if it's supposed to be a blockbuster, it should be 100 million or less.
Look at A24 films. Those are great. And when do they ever go over 100 million?
Well, they haven't, but they're a whole nother problem now. They're getting they're getting Hollywoodized. Um, so I'm not liking it. There was an interview with somebody for a movie that they were it was for the that movie Talk to Me and everything. They
Which
wanted to
one?
it was called Talk to Me. It was a horror
Oh,
film for
yeah. Okay.
A24. And the brothers who made that movie, I think they're brothers, um, they ended up wanting
Smoke and
to
Stack?
cast no, but they wanted to cast a actress like an unknown actress. And A24 said, "No, you have to cast a big name actress in it, or whatever, because those are what sells." And they said, no, we want somebody who's, we want somebody specific, or whatever, and we don't care if they're known or not known.
We want Jackie Hall.
So they said, we will, they said, well, if you go with that route, you're gonna lose $1 million off the budget. And they said, fine. So they lost $1 million and took a unknown name and made her a star, and stuff.
Excellent.
And
That's great.
that's the stuff. But like, I'm not liking hearing that they're becoming Hollywood now. It's like, what are you used to be this kind of independent thing. Now you're getting an ego,
Yeah, it
and
just goes to show you success goes to people's heads sometimes.
well, it's gonna be a thing where their indie film stuff pretty soon is not gonna be what it used to be,
Well,
and stuff.
once the when the quality starts dropping, that's when I'll start to panic.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, so far they haven't had that problem, I guess. Their stuff's still pretty quality. So hopefully they'll keep going on that. But I mean, I'm just I'm annoyed by that, but I'm also happy that movies like Sinners is just fun. It's just
Mhm.
pure fun. I enjoyed being transferred.
Fun, but smart fun too. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that it's not just, lowest common denominator garbage that just relies on, jump scares or flashy special effects. There's a real story, there's real characters, and it's just a joy to see better filmmaking still being made these days.
Well, that was the one thing I liked, about watching movies like Iwo Jima because like, I don't like war films because a lot of it's just you just get into the war and then you're just there, stuck in the war. But like that movie kind of shows it's kind of like Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick shows the people before the war. You get to know the characters, then you're stuck in the war with them. I don't like movies like Saving Private Ryan where you're in the war the whole time and you have to be like, who's that person? Who's that person? Like, what's going on here? I'm so confused.
It's
You know,
interesting because Sans of Iwo Jima is a movie that Stanley Kubrick did not like at all.
that's okay. You didn't have to like it.
No,
Um,
he tended to make anti-war films, and that one was a very, very pro-war film.
that's a pro-war film for sure. But that was what they needed back then, I think, to get more people to wanna
Yeah, it's kind
get
of
into the
like,
military.
those crappy musicals that they needed to get through the Depression. I hate them now, but that's because I'm not living in the then. I probably would have liked them or wanted them then. It's like Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. Let's put on a show. We did that 600 movies already. That's all right. It's still the Depression.
I saw Tarantino mention that Jimmy Kimmel asked him what was a movie that it's really really famous that you have not seen, and he said Sound of Music. Like that was the thing that he could think of was Sound of Music. And I was like thinking, I've never seen Sound of Music either. The I know like the one of the scenes or whatever in it, in the song, but I've
I
never
haven't seen it since I was like 8, and I hated it when I was 8.
I don't see I mean if you're not a musical guy, but I was also an actor who did music
I'm
who
a Julie Andrews guy, even back then. But yeah, no, the singing really put me off.
Mary Poppins, did that put you off too?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, really? Wow. So I mean, I don't know. I'm a big musical guy, so
There's a very, very few musicals that I like.
and this one was a musical in a way. Had musical stuff in it.
And I wasn't wild about the musical
Yep,
numbers,
I
honestly.
know. So there you go. But the rest of the movie,
I mean, I like my vampires to be freaking monsters. You know what I mean? They're not sitting around and tap dancing and singing songs. They're tearing
well,
people's heads off.
I think that was kind of the fun part of it too, was like they were
Yeah, it's
tap
something different.
dancing and doing that, and then they were trying to get the people to like see them having fun,
Making him an
and
interesting character, too.
well, yeah, it made them interesting, but it was like they were trying to get them to show like, oh, look, we're having fun. Come join us. You can have fun in the afterlife, or whatever for
You're eating
eternity.
worms, Michael.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was funny and cute and had great moments and also it wasn't scary or anything. Like it's
No.
really hard to make a terrifying vampire movie. There's
Well, my opinion is that, especially these days, the vampire film is less about being scared as about a moral choice. Because especially if you have the opportunity, who wouldn't want to live forever and do, whatever you wanted to do? The problem is, of course, is you have to die. And if vampires are killing people and traditionally they're evil, um, that means that all the stuff that you've been told about God and Satan and hell and all that is actually probably true, which means if you sell your soul to become a vampire, where do you think you're going to go when you finally get a stake? Is that something you really want to risk?
That's a good question. I think From Dusk Till Dawn asked that question too.
Yeah,
That was the big thing with it. And I think even this movie kind of ranged the idea of like these things are, at first they thought it was some other kind of creature, and then they call them, and then they say, like, oh no, it's vampires, because the inviting the in, that was the very vampire thing to do. But almost every vampire movie has those scenes where the
yeah,
people
yeah.
invite them in and stuff. So, you know.
And that's why I never got the whole vampire romance nonsense because, guys, that's a corpse. That's dead flesh. It might be walking around and doing stuff, but it is still dead. Is that something you really want to get intimate with? I don't think so.
Well, he didn't know. Well, Stack didn't know she was dead.
Well, until later.
Yeah, but until she bit him and everything and turned him.
It's called finding out the hard way.
literally. So yeah, well, all right, I think that's it. I think we pretty much talked about it. Our
Good
quick
film.
reviews are getting
Check
like
it out.
longer than quick reviews, but it's okay. You know,
We had a lot of. There's a lot to talk about. I usually when you have a good film, it makes you want to talk about stuff.
yeah. And there's a lot else. Maybe one day we'll do some more stuff about the theater experiences and other things that
Yeah,
we've
and
done.
it's funny, really good film, really bad film, lots to talk about. If it's kind of meh, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, sometimes you just don't know what to talk about when it's a meh film, or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I hope people go see this flick. I think it's gonna be on Blu-ray pretty soon, so you can buy
And
it.
it's sticking around the theaters. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to get the money, for it or whatever. I think if I'm correct, this was Sony, so this was such an interesting movie for Sony, wasn't it Sony? I want to say like
It was Sonny Corleone.
it definitely had a little bit of a Godfather feel to it. I don't know for all that stuff. Um, let's see what company put it out. Um, Warner Brothers. Okay, never
Warner
mind.
Brothers.
Okay, well there you go. So Warner Brothers and so this will probably be on Max at some point. I would suggest still go see it in the theater, like Paul always says. It's a good movie for
Yeah.
that, but if you can't make it to the theater or something or whatever, definitely see it on Max. I think you'll get a kick out of it then. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to go, and even though they're Marvel movies, I'm gonna have to check out the Wakanda Forever and Creed just to see. Now that
well,
I know this,
Creed
well,
isn't
Creed
a
isn't, but
yeah.
it's yeah,
I mean, he also did the movie Fruitvale Station, which was an indie film. That's
hmm
the one that got him like attention and stuff, and everything. So, I say that Ryan Coogler, like, keep it up, Ryan. You know, he's doing a lot of work. And
and he seems to work a lot with Michael B. Jordan, which is cool.
they seem to be good friends now.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Especially when you like connect with somebody, because
Yeah.
he did Creed 1 and 2 with them, and then Ryan just I think produced Creed 3, but Michael B. Jordan directed Creed 3.
Mm.
That was his direction stuff. Um, so anyway, so great. So hopefully more people will check this out and let us know what you guys think. And I'm not sure what Paul's gonna do for the next quick review Thursday, but we'll see. It might either be one per month or two per month, depending on what we get going. So
Well,
until
now that there's movies out there that I can actually go out and say, "Hey, I want to see this," we can do it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I also do want to do more quick review Thursdays where there are movies on Tubi or something, But we'll see. We'll see what we do. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.